Well, sometimes we find ourselves in situations where we look around us and it seems so bleak and so grim. And sometimes we find ourselves saying, God, how do you have a plan in all of this? How do you have a plan with this happening and that happening and that happening? How are you going to solve all this and make everything work together? And sometimes it becomes really disheartening and really just gets you down. I know I find myself there. But today, as I was reading Genesis 45, I was reminded that God still has plans for everything that happens. See, Joseph gets sold off to slave traders and taken to Egypt and thrown in jail and rises to power. And all of this comes as a result of his brothers betraying him and essentially leaving him for dead. And here's what Joseph says to his brothers when he finally reveals his true identity to them. He says, verse 4 in chapter 45 of Genesis says, I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed or angry with yourselves because you sold me here. For God sent me before you to preserve life. And God sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant on earth and to keep alive for you many survivors. So it was not you who sent me here, but God. He has made me a father to Pharaoh and a lord of all his house and a ruler over the land of Egypt. See, Joseph looks back and he realizes that even though his brothers had intended to sell him to slavery to get rid of him, God was using it to continue his plan of saving his chosen people. And Joseph was the instrument that God chose to use. And so even though Joseph was sold into slavery and forgotten about in jail for years and years and years, the brothers had completely forgotten about him. But God had not forgotten about Joseph. And when Joseph looks back, he sees in hindsight what God's marvelous plan was. So sometimes, even though we're in the thick of things and we're suffering or things are going on that we don't believe that God is going to fix, one day we will get to that place, whether it's here on earth or in heaven, where we see fully the plan of God, and it will be a glorious day. There's nothing better than looking back and realizing how God has used our hardships and adversities to bring him and bring others to him.